creators, collectors, and crypto art lovers. I'm Natalie, one of the co-founders of Creator Collective. This video marks our second campaign for Creator Collective's Level Up NFT Art and Music competition. For the second campaign, we have a very special 3D motion graphics and NFT OG artist, Metsa. In this interview, we cover a wide range of topics, including Metsa's journey into the crypto space, tips for new artists, his inspirations, and then take a deep dive into Metsa's creation process in AfterEffects, Cinema 4D, and Abelton Live. We hope that you all get inspired to create and join in this competition. We have made it super simple for you guys all to enter. All the details are below. Massive thanks to Rarible Protocol DAO for supporting this project. We hope you enjoy this conversation with Metsa.
Awesome. Well, let's just dive in.
Yeah.
Welcome, Metsa. Thank you for your time. Thank you for joining us for the second campaign of Creator Collective. We're honored to have you here. And maybe to start, let's do some just quick introductions for people who are not familiar with your work. Would you mind giving us a little bit of background?
Yeah, for sure. I'm Max. First off, I'm honored to be here. It's my pleasure to answer these questions and converse about NFTs and art and music. I'm a multidisciplinary artist working in music, working in motion graphics, working in design, working in 3D. So pretty much all over the place, and then also inputting some writing and some kind of concepting into it. I've been doing music for about 5 years, 3D for about 1-ish year, and then motion graphics for about 3 to 4. I just graduated college a couple years ago. I work in corporate world doing motion graphics for companies and different freelance projects, but then I also create NFTs and create music and try and just combine my own personal world and make what I want to make.
Love it. It's like, I think I really do people, I think some people might know that we're sort of like, we are connected. We have worked together in the past. And I really appreciate how your approach is multidisciplinary, where you introduce like visual elements, but then also like the music part of it. I think it's really cool to actually meet someone who can do both like really well. I guess we're curious, like what's your artist journey like, within like 3D and music? And, I think you touched on it already, but, how did you get started with 3D? And how did you get started with music? What was your journey like?
Yeah, so music actually came about. I've been messing, and I first started off in like FL in high school, just playing with stuff and being like, oh, I want to be the next Deadmau5 or Skrillex or whatever, like make horrible music. Kind of put that on back burner. I was in college freshman year and I had so much free time. And I was like, all right, I'm listening to Odessa, I'm listening to Flume, I'm listening to Maramasa, and I'm seeing all these people like create incredible music in their bedrooms and then go on to huge, massive stages. I was like, well, I have free time now to kind of explore and do this, and started doing it, started playing like, oh my God, I did a set at my dorm for like a show and tell thing. I did open mic nights at the coffee house. And then I started to kind of contact people who I'd been in touch with on SoundCloud, and then just started to get more, like I started to book shows, started to build things up to the point where I was like, oh my God, I'm actually kind of doing this in tandem with going through school. And then I was in school for computer science for 3 years, but still doing like UI, UX and design in the background, but never really confident enough to fully make the jump. And then at one point, I remember it clear as day, it's Thanksgiving, or not Thanksgiving, it was Easter. And I'm sitting with my mom and my grandparents, my dad, I'm showing them my portfolio from like my design class. And my grandma's like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing in computer science? Like, this is incredible work. Like there's not like, you still have time to make the switch if you want to make the switch. And I like broke down. I literally dropped all my classes in the fall for applying for the design program. Thank goodness I got in, because I was like right on the cliff of, wow, if I don't do this, I don't know what I'm going to do. So I took it and ran with it, and then graduated. And then I was on a contract with Microsoft for about a year. And then during the pandemic, that job got dropped. And then I had free time during the summer, and I was like, might as well dive more into 3D because I've always wanted to do this. I have time now. I want to explore and see what happens. And then people start seeing my work. I did some freelance with Brian's Illuminated, which is really cool. Did some visuals for their Open Aux, which was kind of like my first ever like commission 3D thing. And then I started putting out pieces on Instagram. And then I had a meeting with RAC, Gold Room, and Rob, our like bookkeeping person. And this was like, oh my God, September of 2020, like pre NFT wave, pre everything. And Andre RAC goes like, you're already doing this. Like, why don't you look into crypto art and NFT stuff? Like, you're already putting it on Instagram for free. Like, just mint it, see what happens. Like, more than happy to help get you linked up and with the right people and see how I can help out. And I was like, okay, let's do it. Like, I'm ready. And then the rest is history. Like, it's absolutely insane.
That's amazing, dude. That's amazing. It's funny. I just want to circle back when you said that you were in contact with RAC, with all these people. And you said like 2020 like NFT wave. It's funny to me because it's like that's not too long ago, but then also in crypto land, it's like that is a long time ago.
Yep. Yeah, it's crazy how 1 year changes everything.
Yeah,
for sure. No, it sounds like you've had a lot of good people in your life helping you in those pivotal moments. I love hearing those stories.
Very, very thankful.
Yeah. I think a big part of crypto is really, especially when you're falling down the rabbit hole and joining these communities, is having these friends sort of like act as guides, I feel like that's something that I think I personally sort of relate to whenever I talk to artists who are Web3 curious. I feel like, yeah, man, like whatever you need, like I want to help you. How can I help you understand this whole thing? In the context of art or music. Do you find yourself also sort of like, I guess, onboarding or red pilling some of your friends too, or
red pilling? That's a new term, isn't it?
Choosing. Yeah, I think it's all been kind of like a series of nudges to get me in the right direction. Like shout out RIC, shout out to like Cooper, huge advocate, everyone like FWB and everyone who I've met in all these different discords, like Song Camp. Everyone's kind of like built up to this point to where people are coming to me because it's like, oh my God, how did you do this? How did you work there? How was that experience? How can you help me? How does this project sound? Like, what do I need? And I'm like, wow, like I didn't know this a couple months back. Like I only learned because I got kind of shown like, try this, like do this, look into this. And then it was on me to really make the effort to take it to fruition or like push it past the normal bounds. Because I don't know, you can be given opportunity, but then not take it to where it could be taken. And I'm like always trying to explore different paths and then hopefully set other people up to follow similar tracks or to carve their own. Like give them the right resources, give them the right locations to go read about it or go join a Discord and chat and do things and then see where they end up. Because you never know like what happens a couple months down the road.
Yeah, 1,000%. I mean that's sort of like Natalie and myself's like journey too.
Yep.
Right. It's like a lot of like these spaces, within like NFTs or crypto in general, DAOs. A lot of it is really like learning by doing and learning by sort of experimenting, in addition to also having friends on there. But a lot of experimentation, a lot of doing it yourself. I wanted to maybe like zoom in on like NFTs, like in general. Like, what about the technology that caught your attention? I mean, like, and maybe I could frame this in a way where I feel like the NFTs that we're seeing right now are sort of like first wave, sort of like first generation of NFTs. As you, someone who is a participant in this, initial wave of NFTs, what's about the technology that really spoke to you or caught your attention?
Yeah, I think for the first time, it was kind of a way for me to package everything up that I love doing. I never really had a platform to do that. Like if I did art and then put music with it, people are like, oh, the art's great. Like who made the music? I'm like, oh, like I made that. Like if I did music, people are like, oh, who did the cover on the visuals? I'm like, oh, I also did that. And this is the first time I can kind of stamp and put like this is everything. Like this is my entire thought process concept into one kind of packaged thing for people to then view. And then I'm just really excited for the technology to change to the point, or like even contracts to where you get like adaptive things, or like
Mm.
dynamic NFTs, or stuff that changes throughout the day, throughout the month, with different interactions or different things happen in the world. Like, I'm excited for that more so than just a static piece. And I feel like that's what's going to be coming up next, is something that lives and evolves over the course of a longer period of time versus just an immediate drop. And that's kind of like where my thought process is going to, is like, okay, how can I build something that has a longer lifespan than just this contained package? Or even start to think about that. I feel like it's going to happen. It's out there. It's already happened before, but it'll evolve.
Yeah, yeah, I love it. I love how you were sort of like touching on the design space for dynamic NFTs, right? Like, I think my mind goes towards like, what would it look like to have NFTs that respond to, say, temperature or geolocation, where it would shift and change, and also like time, I mean, I have maybe like an NFT that changes over time, that it becomes much more blurry over time, which is kind of cool. You're introducing some sort of like dynamicism on it. And I think maybe in the future, NFTs might be a little more like organisms almost, with its own sort of like, yeah. I don't know if that's something that you also think about, you or Natalie, if you guys have any thoughts on that.
No, yeah. I mean, right now, I think I've talked to you about it. I'm part of Mona Build. It's a metaverse building bounty. And basically the whole metaverse I'm building, you can mint as an NFT. So within that space, yeah, you should take, I don't know if have you heard about it?
No, I got
dude,
that's crazy.
I'll send you the link. The community's been amazing. And exactly everything you're saying, I just jump in and like I'm learning Unity. I'm playing with, obviously I start in Gravity Sketch, 3D, Cinema 4D, go to Unity, and then use their system, their playground to, export. And then basically eventually once I submit, you mint the actual space. So that's, and then, yeah. So for me, it's like, I'm already thinking along the lines of what you're saying. Well, wouldn't it be cool if I can have those imports that I can interact with it outside once it's minted? I want to be able to adjust it. I want to be able to have the weather go to shit, or have really cool, weird things come and attack you, kind of like you think of Minecraft, like a game, that game component, like minting a game that you have control as a little god. So yeah, what you're saying, I totally get, but I'm playing at like the kindergarten level. So then it's like, it's really cool, but you do just have to do it. You have to just play.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, play is important. I'm curious, Metsa, if as you were falling down the rabbit hole, right, and experimenting with this new nascent technology, and you're putting out NFTs, I wonder if there was any also challenges and roadblocks on your part, both maybe on the tech side of things, or maybe also on your creative process, because I feel like, because NFTs offer a different sort of like way of presenting, that might be different from before. I wonder if you encountered challenges yourself.
Yeah, I mean, tech side, like getting MetaMask set up and like buying tokens or doing all that, like it's a whole different beast. So that, like learning that in DeFi, and like how to get a transaction unstuck and how to like speed up things. And then I'm trying to look into either creating a contract or using a like contract creation platform, and that's been a whole deep rabbit hole. But it's exciting. I mean, it's really cool. And I think like the limitations too, videos can only be like X amount of file size. It can only be like that whole thing. It's starting to change, thankfully. But I mean, at the start, there was times where I had to re-export something a couple times just to be like compress it enough to fit in the container. And then once it's up there, it's up there. Like, you better be set and done and good and ready with everything, because you either gotta leave it or you gotta burn it. And it's like, oh my God, it's final.
Which is kind of cool. I mean, considering artists' deadlines, right, for creation, you're just like, it's kind of like I don't know, for me, it helps in a way, but it is scary because you can't undo that.
I mean, there's something about
real.
Yeah. I mean, there's something about the restriction that also becomes creative too. You're forced to work within those boundaries. I do remember, Metsa, that when we were working together on Song Camp, there were a bunch of times when you had to actually re-export stuff so that it would play properly on Zora, or something like that.
Yeah, it was like, we want a transparent background. I'm like, look, that file is going to be so thick. Zora is not going to like this, and it's not going to work properly. And what happened? It didn't work because I'm like,
Yeah.
it's going to be a whole gig of footage, even if it says it accepts it. And yeah, just like exporting, re-exporting, getting other people's files in. Oh my goodness. But we made it. And you learn, like you find the edges pretty quick. And then you learn to step back from them and at least knowingly go into other projects, knowing the kind of boundaries. But I mean, stuff's ever changing. So like things that were in place a month or a week or whatever ago may not hold currently. And there's more and more tools being built. So it's always exciting.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Curious, like what is your, like, let's say when you're going to create a piece, what is that creative process for you like? Do you have like, I mean, I know I like my notepad, my pencil, or I don't know, what do you like to do?
Yeah, sometimes I sketch it out. Like I have like sticky notes with a concept here for someone I'm working on. And getting like a rough in, but then there's times where like I'll sit with an idea in my head for a long time because I just don't have the tools to make it happen. And then when something finally clicks, it's like, oh, I can work on this now, or I can figure this out. And kind of compounding and building. And then, I mean, it goes back and forth between music and art. Like I'll make something sonically and I'm like, oh, there's a feeling here, there's a movement here that I want to then capture in actual visuals. And then it kind of feeds back and forth until finally I go like, this is it, it's done. Time to call it, move on, put it out, or just put it in the bank of projects which are stepping stones into bigger things.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I feel like Metsa, like he is his own production house.
Yeah, totally. You're
You
everybody.
get the music department, you get the visual department.
That's so cool.
Yeah, copywriting, everything.
You don't have to wait though. That's the best part. You don't have to get approval. You just do whatever comes. That's the magic, right?
I think that's why I love it too, is because there's no one kind of like above behind your shoulder directing you, being like, move that here, or like do this, or change the color, or like I don't like how that looks. I already get that enough in my day-to-day job that I'm like, if I'm doing NFTs, yeah, like you don't want someone,
that's my life.
Yeah, like, and I totally get that. And it's nice to step back and be the person driving the whole vision forward on its own. Like I love collaboration too in the NFT space, but while like doing my own work, like that's what I love doing. So any chance I get to make something is, I don't know, it's exciting for me.
Are there any like pieces or projects that have released lately or recently that you're like, oh, that's a cool one, that's a cool concept, you know, either conceptually or visually?
Yeah, I think, I don't know, I've seen like the OG crystals or whatever, like the organic, like it, when you send them between wallets, it kind of changes and morphs, and that was like super neat.
So cool.
They finally played with like extending it. On-chain stuff always is kind of crazy because you kind of have to like slam it within parameters. So like I got like brought chain, which was crazy. Like that whole mint process was insane, but the actual piece of art is super cool because you can edit the colors and you can like remix the base piece of art that was given to you with like the program that they provide, and then remint it with whole new colors. And it's all on chain. Yeah,
that's
super
so cool.
Is that the crystal? I've seen the crystal project. Is that, or is that a different one?
No, Chain's different.
Okay,
it peaked and then fell to the wayside. But yeah, what on-chain stuff's pretty cool. OG crystals is totally different. Like I don't know how they do it or how they did it. I think that's exciting as a piece that like ever evolves with basic planning contracts and anything else. And then what else? Oh my God, Heaven Computer, that whole project.
Heaven Computer,
crazy.
Yeah.
I got in, I minted 2 right off the bat before, like, I remember the night that it was minting out, like, maybe I'll just pick up some of these. And people start figuring out like, oh my God, now it's in like 3D, like it's an actual, so I don't know where they're going to take it. I just think it's super neat. And the aesthetic is crazy.
That's amazing. Yeah. I feel like with projects like you just mentioned, a lot of them really play well, not only on the art and visual side of things, but then they're also playing with concepts and with code also, which I feel like is such an interesting way of experimenting with NFTs in general. Like I always saw NFTs as a sort of a tool in the same way how FL Studio is, or Adobe Premiere or Blender, or like it's another tool.
Mhm.
Although it's it looks like it's simple, but I think once you know the mechanics of it, that you could actually introduce. I feel like it opens up big unlocks for other expressions, artistic expressions. I feel like.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a tool in an ever evolving container that it's up to you to decide what you put in it and like how it
Yes.
interacts with other things.
And I
Yeah.
think especially for like, the artists who have never done that in their work, it's funny, the other night I downloaded FL Studio and I played with what was it? I have a couple of versions, like 20, like not of FL Studio, but I forget the name of it. And just
Ableton?
yes, Ableton, and then another one, a really even simpler one. But like the main thing is like it's how it really, like you're talking about the emotion, like without music, it's like it's not living. It's like this is the breath, and it's such a magical thing. Because in that metaverse that I was telling you I'm doing, I'm having it's like this weird, crazy world, and it needs that breath of like weird, to me, it's
Yeah.
like it's such a beautiful thing. Like when artists, like we're hoping again with this video to get artists inspired to take that step to, with your loops, include it or be inspired to create. But I was just curious, like in terms of software, like is there free stuff? Is there stuff you recommend, let's say for somebody who doesn't like very low budget? How can they even like get started or do that isn't super complicated that they would be like, oh my God, I'm just not even going to go there?
Yeah. Blender's free. Like that's always a free, crazy open source program. A lot of people step into it for 3D for the first time. There's Ableton Lite, which is really cheap, which comes with like a lot of different keyboards and like MIDI equipment. Like you'll buy like a 25 key MPK or something, and it comes with Ableton Lite, and you get everything in one package. And sure, it's limited, but it'll get you going.
Okay.
And then what else? I mean, I wouldn't suggest doing illegal ways of getting software, but like whatever you gotta do it. Know that a lot of people have done in the past. I wouldn't recommend it. Go legit.
No, I agree. No, I've been playing in this world for a long time. I understand that. I was just because I already like the version of FL Studio that I was like, oh, that's really cool. I'm like, oh, I don't know if I want to spend that right now, but I know eventually like I want everything listed on there.
Yeah.
But like how is there any, like you're saying Blender, they can just easily import the audio file that you're gonna give them and then just
Blender's
export.
3D.
But you can't import the audio. I'm saying if let's say they have an NFT, they're going to mint, like how are they going to use the file and incorporate it if they've never done that before? Is there a simple way?
I think Blender might have a timeline where you can put stuff in, although I'm not sure.
Because I know Premiere, obviously, but I'm trying to think for the artist, like how would somebody who doesn't know, how would you direct them?
Yeah. Google, like look up like free.
We're the Google.
YouTube.
Yeah. Like that's how I learned so many things. I want to say maybe there's like a free Apple like Final Cut thing. Windows Movie Maker, I don't know if you can put stuff with it. I'm just so locked in the Adobe ecosystem.
Yeah,
that's like
too.
bad. Like that's all I use. But I'm sure there's alternatives out there.
Okay.
Or if there's stuff on your phone, like do it on TikTok. Like cut it, paste it, do
whatever.
And
then with Coco NFT now, that's what I'm thinking. I'm trying to think of like, especially they have all these artists and for their competition, they didn't have to mint it, but they could easily do, like you're saying, do a TikTok or do Instagram, add the audio and then they can mint it if they want through Coco NFT.
Yeah.
Or I'm just always thinking of like how to make it super, super simple. Like you had that barrier of like, fear for people like, oh, I'm not going to go there. That's too many things you're saying.
Yeah.
Maybe Metsa, are you familiar with Coco NFT, the platform?
I'm not. I'll look them up.
Okay.
Right now.
Well, Nat, maybe you could give a little bit of framing of like what Coco NFT is.
Well, basically, it allows you to mint your Instagram posts for free.
Oh my God, that's crazy.
So entry in terms of like somebody wanting to enter the space, especially there's a ton of musicians on there, and like like I think that's why I reached out to them. I'll be like, oh, this is really cool, like a way that we can help that. And I guess what I'll do for the community who's watching is I'll link a bunch of ways you can do it, and I'm sure there's tons of tutorials just to make that part easy. Because and of course I think it's great to also like showcase all the next steps. Like, hey, do the Ableton Lite, do FL Studio, which is super fun. I mean, I was on it last night for like 3 hours. I'm like, this is such a the rabbit hole of awesomeness. So
yeah.
Did that explain it, or am I confused about what Coco NFT is?
Yeah, well, I think to add to what Natalie said, in terms of the Coco NFT, like it allows, a person who is not Web3 native to actually mint their Instagram posts or TikToks into NFTs. And I think they're using the lazy minting feature of Rarible Protocol. So that means that creators don't need to pay gas fees. So it's all, on the selling side,
Yeah,
on
that's
on the
nice.
buyer side. Yeah.
That's a huge barrier. Like, I'm very glad I got in way at the start, but like watching those fees rise and being like just biting the bullet of paying $100 to mint something, it's like, oh my God. Or like transact, it sucks. But it's
I
the same
know.
like Ethereum price, and then you see the USD and you're like, oh my God.
Yeah. I mean,
Wild.
it's weird sometimes when you think of it in ETH price, it's like, oh, that's not bad. But then you see
Yeah.
the US dollar value, it's like, oh my God.
Yeah. Why is this? I mean, hopefully there's like plenty of L2s, but none of like super caught on for NFTs yet. I still think Ethereum's like the main source, but there's exciting stuff on like Pen, and then
Mhm.
Polygon has some cool stuff. Solana has some cool stuff. So I don't know. I'm pretty like platform agnostic. Like Ethereum's the main one, but there's plenty of stuff out there. And if the landscape shapes and changes, like I'm more than happy to adapt
Mhm.
to it.
Yeah. I feel like the future is multi-chain.
Yeah.
I feel like just parallel chains and
Yeah.
ways to sort of like bridge into each other. I think recently, Rarible and Tezos. I think. Well, how was it? How do I frame this? I think Tezos now has Rarible on their blockchain. So
That's sweet.
yeah, it's really interesting, because I mean, certainly Tezos has a lot of support from emerging artists, due to its like accessibility, the price,
Yeah.
so I thought it's really cool. I think it would certainly onboard more artists, onto our space. There's a lot of talk about the metaverse, right? And I feel like we all have different sort of like definitions or visions of what the metaverse looks like. I mean, Zuckerberg certainly has his own vision of what the metaverse looks like.
Yeah.
No, this is my metaverse right here.
Snow Crash. What
There
is
you
that?
go.
Well, he coined the term metaverse. That's from
The
like,
original.
yeah, 91 or 92. Yeah, that's when I first read it. I've read it like 3 times. I'm reading it again because it's always interesting to read books like that.
No, totally. So I wonder, maybe we could all maybe share our definitions of like what metaverse is, or what it looks like in your head, in the future. Maybe we'll start with Metsa, and then Natalie, you could also share what the metaverse is.
Yeah, I think, I don't know, just it's not dystopian. Like I feel like it's going to be exciting in the fact that we're going to be able to bridge the gap between a lot of people. Like, I mean, talking here face to face, like we have Zoom, but I feel like metaverse, you can join a room or go to a different world to do something. That's gonna be incredible.
Mhm.
But no one like knows what that is, or like who's gonna own the platform. Like I just hope it's open, permissionless, and everyone can build on top of it. Like I don't want it to be a garden wall of like, if you're here, you can't move anything out. And I think Ethereum kind of bridges that gap. So I'm like really excited to see stuff be ported over or between different worlds. Like say I buy something over here, or like I just bought the Monster Cat, like I think it was Idol, like the relic thing, like a music player. And I was like, that's gonna be cool if they can put this in different spaces to play music or to do something. So like taking all these different pieces from everywhere and then being able to combine it in all these different places is going to be insane. Just
Yeah.
hopefully there's a platform built for it, or multiple different platforms.
Mhm.
Yeah. Visually, I don't know. I
Yeah.
feel like that's
Yeah.
still up for grabs. I mean, in my head, like I have what it could look like, but could you imagine like flipping through themes or shaders or whatever and just like adjusting it to whatever you want it to be? Like that's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much like what I'm experiencing. Like, I guess from our last interview with MetaGuy, I've connected with his crew, and they're all metaverse builders. That's all they do, and they build in VR chat. And in VR chat, that is the coolest freaking like. I've just been blown away. And actually, another MetaGuy's friend are the Mona people, and it's an open metaverse. So like, I don't need to buy the land. I could build whatever. You can connect it with whoever you want. But like the other day for this other thing I do, I interviewed this metaverse builder and Black Fractal. I don't know if you've heard of him. He does a lot of really cool psychedelic, and we were talking all about this kind of stuff, and he's also building on Mona. When I showed him, he's all, this is awesome. I can't wait to see what he does. But like, yeah, just that interoperability and like it, to me, it's like what's happened since I started creating. Like once you're in, have you played with Unity?
No, I know the program, but I need
Yeah.
to mess around like that in Unreal.
It's so cool. I think you're gonna be like, forget everything else. I'm gonna like, this is the shit, because it brings it all together now in the metaverse. Everything that you're so phenomenal at in there. It's like, yeah, but it's just been it really has like affected my dreams too. Like basically, my dreams are like it affects your perception. It's kind of like that red pill goes to the next level. It's like you take 10 red pills. What happens then? You're like, oh shit. But seriously, it's just fun because again, it's like I know I'm already like today on my run, I was like, oh, I know what I want to do next. Like each time, whoops, even my computer's happy. Like each time, obviously, I'm sure you have the experience. Each time you create, you're like, you get inspirations for what other things you're going to do from that project. But yeah, I think I just love the creative freedom and how it is like something that brings people together. And like in VR chat, like when I was with Meta Guys, like, I was talking to people from Germany, from cats and octopuses and weird creatures, and we were all discussing like aliens. It was the best, like that kind of like, but bringing together and also feeling like way different than Zoom. It's not like this flat world. It's like for me, it's super, I don't know, it's like a dream reality, dreamscape kind of.
Dreamscape.
Very psychedelic. I don't know. I could ramble forever. What about you, Mark?
I don't know. It just makes me think of like how I think currently we're living some sort of like dual realities, right? Like one is like our digital life, the other one is like our meat space life. And I think we're at a point where it's already connected. Whatever we do on the digital escape affects the real life, it has real life consequences. And so I think my vision of it is more conceptual in that maybe the metaverse, well, there might be areas of the metaverse that feel very dreamy and dreamscapey, but then I'm also interested in the metaverse that might be like practical too, sort of like bridging the real world and the digital. I don't know how that would look like. I don't know if augmented reality or virtual reality plays a part in it. I do know that we do have primitives now provided by the blockchain to make things have provenance, and that this is a true digital object, that this is an object, So I guess that's what the metaverse, I think for me, the metaverse looks like real life, and yeah, it's much more real life versus like gamey in my head,
Did any of you guys, I was curious, did any of you guys go to the Metaverse Music Festival that just happened in Decentraland? It was 4 days. It was amazing. Like Dead Mouse performed and like all these fun, and also there's actually more events happening this weekend too. I have friends who are doing events. And again, it's like bringing, for music, it's blowing up, at least in different Insomnian space. I saw this, it was a holographic projection of a cello player in the Somnium space. So it was this actual hologram. Yeah, it was.
Whoa.
Yeah. So there's like, especially I think musicians are really like, I don't know, from what I saw for the 4 days in there, it was pretty amazing. Have you performed at all in any metaverses or anything like that? Or
no, I mean, I've done like some stream stuff, but not like metaverse related. I think that'd be pretty neat at some point.
I think we need a Metsa avatar.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to figure out like
AI
that whole
Metsa.
look. Yeah, I mean, I think to Mark's point, like Microsoft HoloLens, like that's like the AR component. Oh my God, it's insane. What they're building there is crazy. I actually interviewed there for a job and I was like, whoa, like this could be a cool work to do, or what they're working on is like, that's where the future is going in 5-10 years.
What's the project
it's
about?
Exciting.
What's the project about, Metsa? What is the project about? Like,
so it was like Microsoft HoloLens.
HoloLens.
Like the glasses.
I see.
Yeah.
Yeah, look it up because it's
I've
exactly
been
what you
hearing
described
about
as
it.
far as
Okay.
metaverse. HoloLens. Yeah, HOLOLENS. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a lot more
it's
artists are doing like that
insane.
AR, VR. Like, I think I told you guys last time we met, like Meta Guys has this like 3D printed creature that has the AR component that then he changes at like weekly or monthly with
Yeah,
different things on it. So I just think, yeah, it's. Have you done any AR or anything with?
not yet. I think at some point I will. I just gotta figure it out.
Awesome. And I'm curious, like with your community, like people who are all your pieces. I know there's the ones I've seen there. Are they mainly one of one, or do you create collections? Or
So I only have one of ones on Super Rare, and then I have like a set on Nifty Gateway, and then like two things on Zora right now. But I'm working on just a really short, I think 25 piece series, which will be like all one of ones with all kind of like unique visuals, unique audio, and more in the generative sense of things, but with like a
nice.
human touch guiding it. And that's kind of like, I'm trying to figure out a way to lower the barrier for people to get into collecting my art, because right now, I mean, that barrier is pretty high. And I want to see if I can gain a bit more of community or a bit more people just enjoying it versus like only selling one of ones and then only going for that. I'd rather test some things out, have fun, and experiment and see what happens. Because there's no like right or wrong way to do this. Because I'm still gonna do one of ones, but it's like, why not try?
No, I think that's great, especially for somebody like me. Like, there's all these amazing artists. You're like, oh, I don't have an extra 100 grand for your beautiful thing, but I do have 100 bucks, or even like, 200, like, and if you do an edition of 25, you could lower that price to, and it is really cool. Like, I don't know, for somebody, who came into the space as an NFT artist. Now I'm just mainly collecting. I'm like, I have to stop myself. Like, I can't look at anything else. But yeah,
Yeah,
especially when it's somebody you like, when you meet somebody, you're, now I'm like, okay, I'm going to look up those 25 pieces, see if I can afford it, save up. But it's fun to be part of your journey because, from that point on, we're all kind of like those 25 people are now part of a special community of your sub community, Have you?
yeah, still supporting. I mean, I'm trying to figure out ways to like branch out of everything. I mean, like I'm looking at what like Jonathan Zawada has done, where he puts out like a piece on hen, I think every day,
Oh,
and it's a different
wow.
like generative mushroom. It's so sick. Like that dude is crazy.
Oh,
And then
wow.
you look at like I think Jen Stark, who she put out a collection on Foundation, but she's like minting the pieces and then someone's selling it. Or you go into oh my god, what's this artist's name? He just put out a series. He wrote their own contract. Like I'm so proud of him because I watched him go through this whole process of figuring it out, and he finally put it out there. Where it's like, do I let people mint it from the contract and not even go to a marketplace or like make a website for this, or have it be an auction? Like figuring out all those ideas where it's like, what's the best mode of releasing it? Because I mean, at the end of the day, it's about the artwork. So
I think I think that's a good segue, Metsa. I feel like that's a good direction. Like I feel like I have a question just like related to that. Like, so that being said, I wonder if you have maybe tips you're considering, or maybe ways of maybe like strategies, like in terms of like releasing or rolling out, say, an NFT, either one generative or a collection. I wonder how you're approaching the rollout, of things.
yeah, I think usually when I make a piece, I'll do a teaser, like a trailer, with like scenes from it, and then like audio elements that are in the final piece but are like manipulated and differentiated for the trailer itself, and then put that out, gauge interest on it, and then see what happens. And I also like put out process, try and do updates of it. And then for this next thing, I'll be a bit more active on like what it is, speaking about it, hopefully writing a post on Mirror or something, because I haven't really done that as far as like a recap or a long form written kind of, not explanation, but just like talking about I mean, maybe that is an explanation, just
But
discussing it,
providing
like,
context.
Yeah,
Yeah.
context and feeling
Yeah.
and thought versus like it just staying on its own. But I kind of like
Mm-hmm.
just kind of dropping it and then having people interpret it how they want to interpret it. Um, because usually it is a pretty close reflection of like what I put
Yes.
into the work, which is incredible. Like being
Mm-hmm.
able to relay that in the piece itself and not have to like line for line say what it is crazy.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. Allowing space for people to also like interpret it for themselves, right? Like I
Mhm.
Yep.
think is one of the values of it.
And I think
Oh,
that's what this next series is. It's just like
mm,
me making stuff and having people place their own, like what is rare, what's the value, what do they enjoy on it
mhm.
versus me telling them.
Yeah. Very similar to, I would say, the loot mechanic, right? Where you're given all these very basic
Mm.
texts, and then you
Yeah.
actually give meaning to it. You know.
Yeah. That was
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
that couple weeks of just, oh my
Oh my
God,
gosh.
everyone's
Yeah.
doing white on black text.
Yes. Yes. And all the derivatives from it too,
Oh my
right?
God.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I built out branding for a token that was released for a derivative, which was really fun.
Which one?
Sprinted that in like a night. I think it was oh my God, I'm still in their Discord. Gear,
Oh, gear.
gear for
Yes.
punk. Yeah.
Gear for
Yeah.
punks.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so someone wrote the contract for Neuro in FWB and I like branded it real quick and did like a quick motion piece in about 30 minutes at like 11 o'clock at night. And then we dropped it. Everyone's like, oh my God. It's like, yeah,
That's
we just banged this
awesome.
out.
Yeah, I mean, for I mean, as someone who actually saw you work, I feel like you really work very fast. It's like very much like there's energy and boom, 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 and then here,
Yeah.
um,
Yep.
yeah. I mean, you mentioned FWB, which I'm also a part of. I wonder where community, like how community plays a part in your artistic process, whether it's NFTs, whether it's visual or music pieces. I wonder where community is like in that sort of like formation.
Yeah, I think I mean just like operating in a various amounts of different communities, like you get a ton of insight into what people are working on, what people find I don't know, like enjoyable or what they're super interested in that you may not have found on your own. So like that's why I like hanging out in like FWB or all these other places is because I'm exposed to things which I would not have like searched out or gained or whatever. And then as far as like making my own Discord or anything at that point, like I'm thinking about it, but I don't know if I can do it better than any of these other places
Mm-hmm.
because so many things are going to pop up where it's like I can only handle X amount of Discords or X amount of chat
Mhm.
Yep.
rooms within a Discord. Like I don't
Yep.
want to add on managing a community on my own because I'd rather my time be spent towards making and creating art.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe at some point, like I'll team up with people who can help me do that. And that would be incredible. But for now, it's like I just want to bolster whatever projects or places that I join. But I mean, I pretty much just hang out on FWB, NFT chat, and like trading crypto and some other stuff pretty quick. But yeah, it's fun. It's a wild time. It's like a crazy message board. But I mean, I just recommend diving in, seeing what places are. Like if someone has a Discord that they're running for a project, join it. See the type of
Mm-hmm.
people. See what they're working on. I mean, sometimes they'll get hit by bots or whatever, but like besides that, it's usually a good time. And you'll find like-minded people. And I mean, you can like spin out stuff. Like you'll meet people who have projects who may need your help, or you have skills that they don't have, or like you find like, oh, like people are writing contracts. Like maybe I'm going to hit them up for feedback, or
Mm-hmm.
they know people that I don't know, or they know processes which I have no idea. Like bridging stuff to Polygon, someone walked me through it. I was like, wow,
Mm-hmm.
like this is all out in the open. Like anyone can go back and read this and figure out for themselves. But having a conversation around tutorials or topics is huge. Um,
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah, I think what you're touching on, Metsa, is really like you're building a network, of
yep.
friends, people who support you and people whom you also support, and I feel like I think one of my, I guess, curiosities, I think in the context of Creator Collective is to offer tips and maybe strategies for people who are falling down the rabbit hole maybe emerging NFT like creators. And I think it's very, very useful to hear you say that, or at least you're touching on it, that having a network is important, having a community is important. I guess in this space, like how does one gain followers or supporters, not followers, but supporters, people who might like your art? How do you foster that relationship between like collectors, for example?
Yeah, I don't know. I think at the main point, it's just like being able to open up and be communicative, like hanging out in Discords, chatting, getting to know people. Usually, like whenever I see someone new or I can find their socials who bid on the piece, like I'll reach out to them directly on Twitter and be like, hey, like thank you so much. Like I really appreciate this. Or if they win it, like get to know the person behind the wallet or behind the username, because that's how you build out like a long form relationship, and stuff comes back around. Like months later, someone reaches out and it's like, oh wow, like we were in this chat together. I recalled your name. We should work on something, or like I have something to show you. Like, do you mind giving me feedback on this? And you don't always have to be in constant communication. I mean, like I'm pretty online, which is a good and a bad thing. But being responsive, being clear, being concise, just being a kind person usually helps. And people want to be around that energy, and then you'll just find like more opportunities will be given to you because people get to know you, or like, oh, like you need to contact this dude. And I've had that happen so many times. I'm like, wow, I'm meeting people who I looked up to, and now they're reaching out to me because they want my feedback on something, because I've been involved in all this stuff. But I think, yeah, just be active, be open, and yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
I'm curious. I'm curious from the two of you guys, since you're both musicians, like where do you see the NFT world evolving with music NFTs and music in general? It seems like a lot more musicians. In every Discord I'm seeing musicians going, I'm a musician, I'm new, help. And so I try to help, but I'm not, like, I haven't actually done one. And like, what do you guys see happening?
Metsa?
Oh, this is tough.
I'm sorry. I was like, I have all these questions. Like, oh.
No, it's good. I think we're at the point now where it's blown up to where there's so many eyes on it, and everyone's like, I want to be a part of this, but I have no idea where to start. And like Twitter and Google. Oh my God, you can find so many people and so many resources at the touch of your fingertips, and you don't even have to like know or do whatever. And it's up to you. Like your management or whoever else who's helping lead you is gonna have no idea unless they're involved in it. So like as an artist, I was thankful enough to be working with people who knew a bit more about crypto than I did. But then past that point, like past me getting a wallet or minting something, it was up to me to build a community and to like foster relationships. And I think like for the first time, music NFTs allow ownership or like potential royalty streams or potential other avenues for artists to create something that's not locked into Spotify or locked into a platform, which is like fighting for playlisting, fighting for being on someone's Discover Weekly, or like pumping out plays or pumping out likes. Like I have totally shifted my mindset into, I'm just going to make whatever art I'm going to make. Hopefully it connects with someone, which at the end of the day is like what I hope people are doing, because the plays and stuff doesn't matter in NFT world. Like I'm a legit no one on Spotify or whatever else, but in this space, it's like, oh wow, like you're doing something which is different. And I think like artist projects which have been successful is like Daniel Allen, like he did the crowdfund for Overstim, which is huge. And he's backed by a really great team of people making that project happen and come to life, where it's like, find your core group of people who will support you and who do other jobs that are better than you. Because at the end of the day, like you want to be making music, have someone else handle the community, have someone else handle the like mechanics of this thing. But build a team, make it happen, because everything's available to you, where you don't need a major label or someone to lift you up. So it's crazy.
Beautifully said. I would say I echo all of what just like Metsa said, really. I think one thing that stood out that you mentioned, Metsa, is like, sort of like it's really important to maybe talk to like fellow artists also as well.
Yeah.
You know, as part of research, you know, I think hearing how music NFTs work from an artist perspective, who is also a musician, is really illuminating. You know, I feel like, you know, yeah, for musicians, I mean, don't rely too much on your managers to do the researching for you, because really, this is a tool. It's a container. You know, for if one sees NFTs only as a tool, I feel like that opens up other ways to use it creatively.
Mhm.
So I yeah, I think I agree with Metsa. I feel like music NFT evolution is still a long way. I think we have platforms already that are specifically made for music NFTs, like, you know, shout outs catalog, you know.
Yeah,
We also
huge.
have like audios as well, for streaming stuff. So it's still very much like unexplored, you know, territory. There's still a wide range of things that need to be figured out. And I'm excited, you know, for all the same reasons that Metsa, you know, just, you know, shared, you know, royalty payments,
Mhm.
ownership, interoperability. You know, what would it look like to at some point have an on-chain player that could actually play all these NFTs, you know, regardless of like where you got them from,
Ooh, I love
you
that
know.
idea. That's cool.
You know, and so we're still early days, but I'm highly bullish, you know, especially the Web3 like music space is led by artists.
Yeah.
It's led by artists, you know.
Yep.
It's exciting to me. Yeah, now we don't have, well, of course we still have like, you know, technologists and developers. Of course they're an important part of the ecosystem, but I think the people leading the charge are really people coming at it from an art perspective. So I think it's huge.
Yeah, that to me is where the magic is. Because I used to, you know, I think I was telling you guys, live with electronic musicians for like ever, and that was always the thing. Like just the cost of doing, you know, doing the album, doing all that stuff. It's like now it's so like, and the fact that like you can, you know, release your album as an NFT, and that, you know, just that community that's built around it is like you have access to those people. And I don't know, I just think it's really cool to see. Is there any like music NFT projects that particularly, like you were mentioned a couple of them, I think, Vesta, or is there any that you know are upcoming that we should be on the lookout for? That
I think someone just dropped an album which had like 7 different NFTs within it, which was huge. Like the dude blew up on Twitter. I can't think of the name for the life of me. If I find it, I will send it to you.
cool.
But that took off. Like people doing alternative ways of either crowdsourcing like funding for their album, or crowdsourcing like every like components and pieces to build it outside of like going to a label and then giving up most of your life and most of your splits to
Yeah.
like the machine, is crazy. And then, or just like making a piece which encapsulates like the EP or the album itself and then giving it to people. I still think we're super early, and there's like this weird tie where there has to be a visual paired with it, where like when is audio NFTs going to live on their own as its own thing? And I don't know if that's due to like a visualizer or due to something like innate with that, but it's hard because I mean, in museums, like it's all pieces up on a wall or something else, which you're visually seeing, but you don't go into a museum and listen to sounds sometimes. But there is like sonically pieces which are paired with stuff. So like I'm waiting until you can kind of break the barrier between it, or it becomes intertwined to where like, okay, like if I am going to release something, like I have to pair a visual with it, or I have to figure this out.
Or you could
where in
build
my
like
case,
a metaverse for it where you enter
exactly.
and it's like you're in that dome. That's what I'm like, ooh,
Yeah.
just like along the lines of what you're saying too, Mark. I'm like a player that's like super immersive VR. Like you just enter and it's like I'm playing my music. I don't need to see it. I just sit there, close my eyes, and I mean, obviously you enter it, but still, like, that's
Yeah, you make a space for it.
Yeah.
And gain input. Yeah, I feel like there's just so much to explore.
There is. I think that what gives me excitement too. Yeah, I'm looking forward to other forms of creativity that will emerge from these new technologies. You know, yeah. Well, so I think we're in this maybe like section of the video.
So this is my most recent piece. So let me zoom out. So this is the scene itself. Zoom all the way into here. So this is where everything's kind of set up. And then let me pull up Redshift. So this is just Cinema's normal kind of display. So I'll have this open, and then I open Redshift at the same time. Yeah, let's make sure it's on 2000 by 2000. Yeah, so I went 500 by 500. So once this loads over here, so this is how it actually looks, like textured and rendered.
Oh, cool.
And then this is the scene itself. So this is the character, everything else is set up. And I actually rigged like some of these plants. So you see these like bones in it. If I play it, they'll like wiggle around.
Nice. That's cool. Yeah.
So I use noises a lot to get like a lot of like basic motion. Like all these have like a vibrate tag on it.
I love noise.
Yeah, it's such
so
a cheap
cool.
way. It's such a cheap way to get movement, but it works so well.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is how the scene is set up. It's fairly simple. I mean, like most of this stuff is from Megascans, but a lot of it comes out of in like the material choices in here, which is like using a OSL shader. So you get like these blobs and stuff. If I go in real close, there is like this colorful pattern, which will like move and change throughout the thing, which I animated. I think I hooked up a noise into something. Let me find the cloth itself. So this honestly didn't exist. Like before, it was literally just the head and like the kind of like neck face mask thing. And then I built out a whole scene because I was like, I have this sitting here, like, why don't I make this an entire piece? So I did.
That's
and
so
then this was
cool.
kit bashed together from like a bunch of different parts. So if I go into like the head itself, can I solo this? So Cinema just updated their whole interface and I don't know where everything lives currently. Oh yeah, here we go. Okay.
So do you do all your modeling within Cinema 4D, or do you use any VR tools at all?
Oh, I want to get into VR so bad. I do have a, what's it called? Index. So I want to be using that at some point. But I usually kit bash stuff. So like I'll find different pieces on ArtStation, which are like a base mesh, and then get like a whole pack of Legos essentially. And then figure out like, okay, how do I piece all this together if it's like literally just all strewn out?
So for
and then that's
people
what this is.
for people who don't know what that means, that term, what it's like, you just buy the kit and then you can.
Yeah, you just kit bash. Yeah.
Okay.
So like you don't have to, thank goodness I didn't have to model all this stuff. Like it would have taken me months to figure out all these little pieces and how to shape everything. It's like, okay, I'd rather have someone else figure this out for me. And then I'm the artist just figuring out how to piece this together, because it's
Cool.
given to you with just all these pieces,
Nice.
not any orientation, not anything. So like
so
that's how you see a
cool.
lot of cinema stuff kind of, or 3D things come to life, is someone will build out a pack, they sell the pack, and you can buy it. And then I'm like, oh, how can I tweak this to be my own thing? So like all the textures, all the type, that's all from me because I threw it into Substance, built out logos in like Illustrator, and then imported into there, and then like drew them on in there, and then put it in back into here. So the material for this thing, there's like all these different nodes connecting it to the point of which, if I pull up, so this is what makes the materials. It's like that orange thing right there, that's this material here, which is the base color, like the plasticky style stuff. There's deposits. So like this plastic, and then where's my overlay? Yeah, so it's just building out all these different trees. So like the dust and scratches on it. There's like an image file right here. There's a curvature to get this like white kind of outline on it. Yeah. Oh, here it is. This base color. Where is it? No, locate image. Yeah, so like this thing is all of the little design elements pieced down in the UV. and then piped into a ramp, which is then blended with all these different colors. So I could like go through here and like change, like where's the base material like this. If I didn't want it to be this orange, I could just make it blue
That's
or
so
whatever.
sick.
And it just
so
auto
powerful.
updates.
That's powerful.
Yeah, I am very glad with the computer that I'm running because it is high intensity. Or if I want like that to change, you can just like I just play with it. Like I just see what works, see what happens. For all of that, I have a copy of this, so it's not a problem if I keep this color. And then yeah, so like all these different little lines and stuff are all the cameras. So I like to set them up sometimes on like they follow a path or a null, or I'll hand animate it too. And that's all like keyframed and such. And then this big floaty thing. So I didn't have to animate this all by hand, which was incredible. I hooked it up to a fracture element, which then that fracture element had a effector on it, which is this random and this plane. So like you'll see this big ball kind of pass through it, which gives it this movement. So like I didn't have to do one lantern, animate it, do another thing, animate
No
it, do another rock,
keyframing. It
animate
does
it.
it. Yeah.
No, it does it for you, because like what it does is it's a is it shifts the like rotation and the height value here. So like I could go crazy with these elements and like just play. Like the more modular you build things like this, is the more you can kind of like art direct and let the software help you, versus being stuck into like, oh my God, I have to animate 30 rocks by hand. This sucks. This is going to take hours. I'm like, no, I'm going to throw it in a fracture. I'm going to put a random on it, and I'm going to figure out a way to quickly do this. And then I like to just start putting kind of camera angles around and figuring out different shots that work. So like for this one, I had to build out a background and like get stuff in place, because I built the scene one way, and then you turn the camera another way and you're like, oh, there's nothing here. I need to fill this void. So putting this rock really far or whatever. And then the lantern camera, which is like a target on a null. So like as it rises, the camera will automatically pan up and see it. I mean, I'm probably just talking crazy because you're like, how the hell do you figure out all this shit? I don't know. I just sit here and I play with a program, or I like watch YouTube tutorials like Grayscale Gorilla, Rocket Lasso, just even cinema, like Maxon's.
Yeah, they have
they
a
do
great
like a
one.
monthly kind of thing.
Yeah.
I love it. Like I'll sit and I'll watch an artist create something, and I'm like, I'm stealing this, I'm stealing this, I'm gonna apply this, I'm gonna take this into my process. And like you just learn so much by watching other people work, and you kind of like start to shave off certain things which you put in your own process. So yeah, so in cinema, I kind of figure out all these different camera angles. I kind of figure out like sequencing in my head of how stuff is going to appear, and then I'll close this. Cool. So this is where a lot of everything kind of comes together, in a sense. So I have all the effects on it because I'm missing 2 plugins, which is a pixel sorter. That thing saves my life. It's really, really cool. It does a lot of like grainy kind of stuff. So it's going to be lacking in here, but I play with that a lot. But this is where I start to kind of like sequence. So I export everything as like a PNG, and I have to collapse it and then throw it in. So over here, you'll see all these videos, which, yeah, I need to be better about sorting it. It's really bad. But for personal projects, it's okay.
So from Cinema 4D, you export as a movie in the time, you actually create, with the camera angles and all that, right?
Yeah. So I'll line up cameras, and then I'll put it to render, and then it exports an image sequence, and then I use Adobe Media Encoder to kind of like package it up into a video, and I'll put that video into AfterEffects. And then this is where I kind of like layer up all the crazy like motion graphics, like all this stuff that you see here. And then that's all built. So like I have a square map, which is all these little squares kind of coming into play, and then the color buildup, which I built as like a module here. So I'm like hand animating all these different little pieces to then build up a bigger thing.
So your comps within comps, right?
Exactly, comps within comps. That's how
I know the basics. I've been learning it, but it's like Oh my God.
Yep.
This is a
That's
lot
how
of
the world
work.
goes around.
Yep.
Yeah, so here is another comp of just the circle itself. So I'll make this in Illustrator and then use Overlord to port it in really easily. It's like a one-click
Oh, I've never heard of that. Overlord. That's another.
popover. Oh, it's lovely. You just
Okay.
click a button and then all your shapes appear. And you're like, yay, I don't have to export any files. And it's all a vector.
So it's a plugin
So
you import, you have in Illustrator itself, and you just, oh, cool.
yeah, it
Okay.
lives in AfterEffects and Illustrator. And then so like all these things, let's see if I can pull up the keyframes. Yeah, so like I use trim paths a lot to get this like all the line animations right here, like this. If I go to folds, might be easier to see. And then animate the rotation, put some masking in. Oh yeah, here, like here's that little line that pops up at the end. And if I play it, it's like all these little elements is everything which I have to kind of sequence and time and figure out movement, figure out opacity, figure out like, okay, I need a matte here because it has to slide out like this. And so there's a square block, and then this is then linked up with a track mat, or yeah, alpha mat right there. So it's like think of it like a screen. Like if you put something in front of something and then you can slide something in and out, but you don't have to see the screen itself. Yeah, and then like all these little touches, all these little kind of movements, like just kind of build up into a larger piece. Like when you start putting all this together and then viewing it from further away, it's like these fine details build up into this bigger image. And I don't know, I find that through making and doing and putting things into place, that's what gets me going into like, oh, this should be here. Or like, oh, I need something here, or oh, I need something else here. I'm not building a storyboard. I'm trying to just figure out. I mean, I am and I'm not, like there's not a lot of pre-planning. Like I don't have a whole paper sheet with I want this shot, this shot, this shot, this shot. It kind of just occurs naturally. For other projects I do, if it's more client work or more like I have a stakeholder which I got to show stuff to, and they have to understand my process. But for this, it's like I just go and I just don't think, and it just starts to work out. And I wish there was a better answer to how to get other people in that kind of mindset. But I think the more you work, the more you can easily like achieve that flow and play. And that's where the magic happens, is I look up and it's 3-4 hours later and I need to eat dinner because I've been sitting at my computer playing with
Join the yeah, that's a good club.
I'm like, oh God, I need to take care of myself.
But like what you were talking about earlier, this is like it's so wonderful to be able to create for yourself, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Because the whole point is like NFTs unlock that ability to where, I mean, I saw this tweet, which was like normal art or like art for someone else, which was, okay, pitch it, find your clients, do this, do this, do this, do this. NFT was make art, sell art. Like, and that's oversimplifying, of course. Like there's a ton of communication and marketing that goes into a lot of these projects, but for some of this, it's just like, it's word of mouth or who or they just see it on the front page of some marketplace. They're like, wow, this connects with me. Like regardless of whatever. And I think that's wonderful.
So I'm curious.
Just really quickly, maybe just like briefly talk about how you got into the front page of the Coinbase NFT marketplace.
Yeah.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
That was insane. So I actually interviewed there for a visual design position back in, I don't know, was it July-ish, end of September, sometime around there. And I don't know, they were like, yeah, you're great. And then I get this email, which is, you need to like link up with this person about NFTs, and then job application got denied. And I was like, what's going on here? Like, how can they, I don't understand this. And so but I still was like, hey, like I'd love to meet, irregardless of the process in applying for visual design. Like I'd love to talk to you about NFTs and that whole world. So I talked with this guy, Mark, who's incredible, dude went to, I think it was Stanford or whatever. And I'm sitting there like, I'm nobody from Western. Like I have no collegiate degree, whatever. And I'm talking to you working at Coinbase, who he sold his old company and then went to work there to then build this thing. So they reached out to me and they wanted to know, like, what does a marketplace landscape look like? What does it look like as an artist? What are things that you find that you struggle with? Where do you think this is going? Like what projects interest you? Like just talk to us about your experience. I was like, okay, cool. Like, I don't know what you're building, but neat, like great. And then they originally wanted to pair me with other like companies to like build NFTs for them to sell in the marketplace. I was like, I like, it sounds really cool. I think it'd be great, but I mean, like as an artist, like I want to do my own thing. So then the last person I got in contact with, she understood it. She got it. She's like, wow, like this is the renaissance for artists where you can actually make money when you're alive. I'm like, yeah, like you,
What a
you get
concept.
it. Like you understand, like it's something for artists themselves. So they pivoted from, they're like, yeah, we can't be an agency and do NFT work for other companies, but we can build a marketplace. So then they're like, yeah, you can't tell anyone this. And I'm like, oh my God, I am in all these spheres where I can't say Coinbase is making an NFT marketplace. I have the biggest amount of alpha right now, and it's not even a joke, guys. Like it's dead serious. And then a couple of weeks later, they hit me back up and they're like, it's coming out soon. Like, do you mind giving us some work to put on the website or like put out with the marketing? I was like, great. And they're like, yes. Could you get like a list of friends that you think are great to send to us, but like frame it as it's for NFT marketing. Like, do not tell them it's for a marketplace. So I went through my contact lists and some people in FWB, like Jonathan Zawada, a couple other friends that I just personally love their work. I was like, hey, Coinbase is doing stuff around NFTs for marketing. Like, do you want me to get you in contact with them? I'm like, they probably think this kid is spam. Like, they probably think this is fake or like, what's happened to Max's account? There's no way this is real. I got a lot of that too. Like, what do they want? I'm like, just give me your email. Like, I'll let them.
Just give me your email.
And they have no idea that it's for the release of the marketplace. So then a couple of weeks later, they kept getting pushed back, I'm like, when it comes out, it comes out. If I'm on it, I'm on it. If they don't use my work, they don't use my work, whatever. And then it came out and I was like, wow, I'm on the front page of the marketplace landing.
So cool.
But they didn't attribute anyone. There was no tags to the artist. There was no anything. So they dropped the ball a little hard at the start. Like the email blast that went out, they didn't tag the artist. This thing went out to like over 6 million people. And we're all sitting there like, it was me, my friend Nick and Jonathan who got on the email blast, and Chuck, no pattern. And we're like, oh my God, like, of course they don't credit us. And they're like, yeah, we messed up big time. We are so sorry. I'm like, yeah, you think? But they finally updated the site to include my tag. So I was like, fantastic. And like that day, I mean, still concurrently, like people flooded into my Twitter as far as like, who are you? Like, your work is great. Where can I find more pieces? And then that same day, I think someone bought a piece for like $12,000 on secondary.
Wow.
Was my genesis. Yeah.
That's
amazing.
awesome.
Yeah. And my original collector, she reached out and was like, I owe you royalties off of this. Because it was sold on OpenSea. It wasn't sold on Super Rare. And I'm like, thank you so much.
That's
like
wonderful.
you didn't have to do this. Like you literally, but yeah, she's incredible. Sarah, she runs TDC Gallery. She's great. She's fantastic. But yeah, I got a lot more eyes on my project. And then I kind of realized, like, before then I was hesitant as far as kind of saying no to a lot of things. But now it's like, wow, I need to focus on what I'm doing because it's clearly going somewhere and I'm just not accepting it. And I'm looking towards other people to give me work. And I just need to look at myself and be like, this is what I want to do. And take ownership, even if it sounds selfish or seems selfish. It's like, this is my life and this is what I want to do. And this is how I want to spend my time. But yeah, I've been in contact with Coinbase for a bit longer now. And I'm stoked that my friends now realize, like, oh, we have a direct line into this. I'm like, yeah, we'll see what happens. So I have no idea when the marketplace launches or anything like that, but I'm definitely trying to like think of things to build potentially for it, or just like either any events or anything upcoming. It's just like, it's crazy. I mean, that's the largest that was my onboarding process. And I think a lot of other people's like vehicle to get into crypto and then to then be in direct contact and work with them and then have my like normal friends hit me up and be like, holy shit, like, dude, you were on the email of, I'm like, yeah, I know. I just couldn't say anything for the longest time.
Well, maybe they can build your magical async, components that you've been dreaming
Yeah.
of, right?
I hope so. I hope they allow more tools for artists. I think, who knows? Like, who knows if it'll be platform agnostic? Who knows like what tools they're creating? But I mean, the massive amount of onboarding that's going to happen in the space in the next couple of months is something we've never seen before. Like the volume that this could bring here is crazy, and we have to be kind of the curators and people to show others the way of how we've been working and how we've been treating artists, because we don't want to lose sight of that. Like, I don't want corporations or people to come in and be like, this is how it is. It's like, no, like this is for digital artists. And like, we have a platform advantage to help you because we've been working in this and evolving in this, and it's going to be a whole world change, but it's exciting.
It really is. Yeah, dude. Yeah.
Love that story. That's wonderful. And I love here, like, I'm curious, okay, here I see all your comps. Do you ever, like, once you're finished with this project, do you ever like recycle and kind of reform all your projects, like your next one, or you just kind of like restart?
I'll pick up like certain tools and tips that I've learned in the past and be like, okay, I can do this better next time. Or like reapply it and think of just ways to kind of adapt and evolve that toolkit that I draw from. But there's definitely ways which I get stuck in. I'm like, oh, I love this and this and this. I'm like, oh, I gotta stop using that because I'm gonna get sick and tired of it.
So what program do you bring the audio in? Do you bring this now to Premiere, or where do you?
So this actually, I do everything in AfterEffects. People are like, why do you timeline sequence in here? But my audio layer is in here. I mean,
cool.
Okay, let me turn on my other computer and you can see the sequencing in Abelton, because then that's where I play the video out of and then like piece stuff with it. Yeah, so it's really great because I can just pivot around and like go back and forth. Yeah,
you get gold really star fun for coolest setup, dude. All these computers. Let me get my 5th computer going to supercharge the rest of the.
Here's Ableton. Let me see if I can.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to download that.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like Excel, which is really funny.
It kind of does. I was like, this is glorified, but you like it for the ability to create. It's more to your mind.
I think the performance aspect of it is like what helped a lot, is because like I use this to play out live as well as producing it. So if I'm all in one ecosystem, it makes sense to kind of stay in it. And like I have a push, I have a bunch of other software and tools, and that's kind of what works for me in the best way. So this is the project itself. So I kind of stem out a bunch of things in the audio and then put it in, and I deleted the the video side of it because it crashes my program all the time, which is really bad. But I'm gonna restore it and see if I can put it back in so you can, yeah, here we go. Store.
So I'm just curious, like for a composition like this, is a lot of the stuff do you buy packs of sounds? Do you make everything yourself? Like how?
Yeah, so I have some stuff that I've kind of held on to for however many years and kind of build up like a sample set of like drums, of ambience, of everything that people pass along, and then like I'll make synths myself.
Cool.
Or like find plugins and then tweak them, because like I just sonically, like I love making sounds and making things, and that's like a big process inside of it that I don't know, like I can get just lost in synthesis. All right, this is coming up again. I'm gonna put the video in and then we can finally see how this whole thing works. Please don't crash on me. We good? Oh, thank God. Okay, let's go. It's always like a.
It's funny. I'm watching your reflections. The lights are your face is changing colors from the light.
Okay, so here you see the sequence, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I don't know if you're gonna get audio if I play this. Can you hear that?
No.
Okay, let me see if I can cable. Does this work?
Oh, there it is.
There you go.
Yep, worked.
Okay, sick. So yeah, so all these little hits, all these little things, like I piece in time by myself, and then like this synth was from Massive. If I activate this, like this big swell. Yeah, so that was actually a preset, which I then adjusted. It's desist, whatever. It was just this beautiful big pad. And then I wrote that and I was like, this fits insanely well for this whole piece. And then threw it into here, put some OTT, some compressor, some auto pan, and then like layered multiple different pieces of it and different stabs and hits. And then here's the sub bass. So you get like this, like the low
sick.
end.
Nice.
And then what contact piece was this? Yeah, so Cycles found like this insane kind of like flute thing. Saved it, recorded it, threw it into here, put some reverb, put some OTT, put some compression, cut out the lows, and you get like this really like, yeah, like the high end on top. And then all these little like bleeps and bloops, like all that is just warping and processing a bunch of different samples that I run through Contact and just like record the audio. I was like, I like this, I like this, I like this. And then just started to play with it, warp it, mess with it, cut stuff out. So here you'll see me do like a really long stream of audio, which is just me recording, me playing with stuff. And that's just all in the push, and just like playing with settings, piecing things together and being like, oh, like I'm gonna steal like this little thing, like just that. And
That's
then throw
cool.
that in.
It's like you work in this like you do in AfterEffects. Like these are your little you know, right?
Yeah, it just all builds.
That's cool.
And then what else? So it's I mean, honestly, it's pretty simple. And then there's like these weird effects, like that's all reversed.
That's nice.
And like really crunched. Yeah, I think no, the BPM's still the same. It's just, yeah. And just figuring out just small little pieces, like taking things, like that's all from the Digitone, which is right here, that I recorded in, and then just placed over it. So not really, honestly, a complex piece of work. It's just figuring out where things sit and where things should lie and how it highlights the motion itself. So like I try and make like text and audio hit at the same time, or like if something else new comes on, it's like, okay, there's a sound associated with it. Like all these little, like when the text pops up, there's a sound associated with it. When something slaps into something else, there's like a transition element. I'll keep the tails of reverb from when it ends and loop it back at the beginning, so that you get this almost seamless looping sound that sounds like it's infinite. Because I hate it when the audio cuts out, or if it just ends and starts and stops, and you don't get like a it doesn't feel like a full piece. But like with this, if you're cognizant of the fact that this thing is going to be looping and playing, you can use that to your advantage and take stuff and make sure it's bookending the thing.
I like that. Yeah, because then you're really immersed. It's more immersive, you know?
Yeah, it's more intentional in that fact. Or like all these little small things in the background, which then feeds into a fuller piece. And then that's like, there's a ton of panning, there's a ton of processing and stuff. And yeah, spatial placement is a big thing.
Yes.
It's so interesting seeing your process, both like starting from the visuals and I, you know, there is sort of like an underlying pattern in the way that you work, right? Like there's of course there's a lot of layers, you know, There's a lot of experimentation, it's non-linear, I would say, where, it's like you take pieces of this and this, and I like this, and they push it together, and it's really fascinating, seeing that, and this is really cool.
Yeah, it's fun. I mean, like it changes based upon the piece for sure. But yeah, stuff just gets taken from all over. Like I wrote this originally for a different project, and I was like, no, this is too good. Like it's coming to its own thing. And I had to rewrite something else.
That's awesome.
That's amazing.
Yeah, you're like a chef with all your ingredients, and you're like, what am I gonna cook today? You're like watching you work. You're just like, oh, a little of this, a little, see what happens, and it's really cool.
I think that's the beauty of it, is there's no set kind of like recipe sometimes, where you're just kind of like building and feeling out, and you're like taste testing or figuring it out as you go, and you're like, oh, like this actually works if I do XYZ, and now it's enhancing it versus detracting from it, and just being okay with stuff sounding rough at the start, and then grinding it down into something that's, oh, this is useful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Well, Metsa, we really appreciate the time, and the knowledge, and all these tips, and even giving us like a peek in your process. I've learned a lot. I'm pretty sure a lot more people will also. We appreciate you, and